freezing up 4 of the enemies again. Very, very nice. Very powerful. Hi guys, I'm Mike, and this is another Raid Shadow Legends video. In this video I want to take a look at a champion that has helped me out greatly with my main account. I pulled him rather early, and especially when your roster is not that big yet and you do not have a lot of options, he can provide you with a lot of value. But even after that, he will be very, very useful in a couple of areas in the game. I am talking about a champion that we will find in the Demonspawn faction. He was one of the first epics that I pulled alongside Stag Knight, and both of them provided me with a lot of value. The champion that I'm talking about is Achak the Wendarin. He's a champion with a pretty complex kit, but this does not make it any less potent. Let's go through it. His A1 attacks one enemy and has a 30% chance of decreasing the duration of one random buff if the target is under an HP burn debuff. Also has a 30% chance of decreasing the target's turn meter by 15% if they are under a freeze debuff. Like I said, he's pretty complex, but it will all come together when we take a look at his other skills. His A2. It places a block debuffs buff on all allies for 1 turn and a 25% strengthen buff on all allies for 2 turns. So the block debuffs buff is really good, but strengthen is like the strongest defensive buff that you can put on your champions. So this is pretty useful as well. Very, very nice ability. His A3. It attacks all enemies and has a 70% chance, which becomes a 90% chance if you book it, of placing a freeze debuff for 1 turn on enemies whose attack is higher than their defense. It also has a 70% chance of placing an HP burn debuff for 1 turn on enemies whose defense is equal to or higher than their attack. So in practice this will oftentimes be a freeze, because somehow a lot of champions apparently have an attack higher than their defense, and even some champions that you would not expect this on. But this makes him a pretty good control champion, because he can freeze the champions of the opposing team, making them unable to attack you. And here already you can see where his A1 ties into the rest of his kit. Because his A1 benefits from having an HP burn debuff or a freeze debuff on the opponent. So that's great, because he can either place a freeze or an HP burn debuff with his A3. And it becomes even better when we look at his passive. Because here you can see he heals all allies by 5% of their max HP every time an enemy under an HP burn debuff gets a turn, but also fills the turn meter of all allies by 10% every time an enemy under a freeze debuff gets a turn. So whether he placed an HP burn or a freeze debuff, the passive always does something with this as well, tying his kit nicely together. And if that was not enough, he also has a pretty good aura, because he has an increased ally defense in all battles, and that's very important, by 25%. And the all battles aura makes him a very, very useful addition to your roster when you do not have a lot of good aura lead champions yet, because this is a very, very potent aura. His stats are not bad. He has pretty high HP and his defense is not bad. His speed is a little bit low, but what we want to do with this guy is we want to build him pretty tanky with enough speed and pretty high accuracy. So let's take a look at how I built my Achak the Wendarin. And I have to say, I geared this guy up many months ago and never really changed around a lot on him. So he's lagging behind a little bit when I look at my more recent champions and upgrades. But he's still very useful and I still use him in a couple of areas. So as you can see, I've built him with 2 speed sets and an accuracy set, because we need to build up his speed a little bit and he needs lots and lots of accuracy to land his debuffs. And besides that, I have focused on giving him more HP and defense so he can survive a little bit easier. So this of course means putting an accuracy banner on him and an HP amulet in this case, because I have no use for crit damage here. I'm not building him to do any damage, because even if you give him a lot of crit rate and crit damage, he does not have a lot of damage dealing potential in his kit. So it would just be a waste to focus on these two as well. Just focus on HP defense, speed and accuracy, and your Achak will be able to do the job that he's meant to. I have booked my Achak out, but regrettably it's not a champion that needs a low amount of books. His A1 alone needs 8 books, and it's not something that I want to have booked, but you have no choice where the books are gonna land. So you need to have a book in Cannibal Might, decreasing the cooldown of the block debuffs and strengthen debuff. And you want to have 6 books in Frostfire Gale, of course, decreasing the cooldown on this attack by 2 turns. And if you are very lucky, then no books at all will land in the A1, because I don't think this is all that interesting. But as you can see, I did not have that much luck. I lost 6 books to this skill. But ah well, it could have been 8 books, so could have been worse. Now for his masteries. I have built him like this, and I will move to the side a little bit. You can see here I've taken the offense tree, hugging the left all the way to War Master. And then the support tree, I have focused on giving him accuracy and also gave him Lore of Steel, but these two are always nice, increasing the chance of placing any debuffs from skills or artifacts by 5%, because as you could see, the A3 has a 90% chance of landing, not 100%, so this helps a little bit. And also Master Hexer, which has a chance of increasing the duration of any debuff cast by Achak. So other good sets for this guy are of course things like Perception, giving him both a little bit of speed and accuracy. You could also try out something like Immortal or Defense, anything that makes him more tanky. You do not need damage on him, so things like crit rate are not important. And this also means that you can focus on giving him defensive or HP gloves, for example. No crit rate needed whatsoever. Okay, now to take a look at where Achak can provide you with value. At the beginning of the game, you can use this guy in actually any dungeon because of the value he provides with his aura, with a little bit of control from his A3, with the block debuffs buff and strengthened buff that he has on his A2. He's just very, very useful. He is also very useful in Doom Tower, because he can help you there in the same way that he does in dungeons, with his aura lead, for example, and the control from the freeze and the buffs he has on his A2. They are all very, very useful in Doom Tower early on. I even used this guy for a little bit in Arena, in a 3v3 team, because the freeze that he provides is also very nice in there. And something that will probably not surprise you, in Faction Wars he is a very nice addition as well. But first, let's take a look at a dungeon where he excels even later in the game. And this is, of course, Spider's Den. He is still in my Spider 20 team to this day, and I combine him in here with an AoE HP burn champion, which really makes Achak shine. So here we go. This is my team. Let's just do a run, because actions speak louder than words. So here we go. First thing I want to do against Spider is place a decrease attack and decrease defense buff. The decreased defense buff is even more important than the decreased attack in this case, with my Stag Knight, who is going first. So there we go. Okay, placed on the big Spider, that's good. Now I want to do Frostfire Gale with Achak, which will hopefully freeze up a lot of the Spiderlings. Because, as you can see, he is the wrong affinity for Spider 20. But even though this is not the best matchup for him, he is still a fantastic champion and can help you out a lot. So there we go, Frostfire Gale. And as you can see, he froze up a lot of Spiderlings in this case. Now we're going to Heartseeker on the boss. So he decreases turn meter, very good. And now we are going to hit the big Spider with Holy Sword. Okay, we're already halfway down. Now I'm going to place an HP burn debuff on all Spiderlings and the Spider with Mordecai. And you will see Achak's passive go entirely mental in a moment. So there we go. Because as you can see, every time that a Spiderling gets a turn, if he is frozen, he gives a turn meter boost to the team. And if he is under an HP burn debuff, he heals the team. So the passive is proccing like crazy over here. I'm just going to put the game on auto now. And then you will see the passive is proccing and it is proccing and it is proccing. It's like you broke the game. And the spider doesn't know it yet, but he's a dead spider, absolutely. And because of all the heals from the passive, Mordecai is still alive. Because otherwise he would have died already. I think that shows his value very, very well in a dungeon like Spiders. And this combination of Achak with just about any AoE HP burn champion in Spider 21, 22, 23, 24, even 25 makes him very, very useful even to endgame players. Like I said, he's a very, very useful champ in Faction Wars as well. And that is because in the Demonspawn faction, you can find a couple of champs with HP burn attacks, for example. Like Drexthar is a very good HP burn champion. And that combos very nicely with Achak, of course. Also, we have Akoth providing you with even more HP burn options. And if you put a Magnar in besides all that, then you have an incredible combination that can do a lot of damage really fast. But in this case, I do want to show you Achak in action on a Doom Tower wave as well. So we'll just take a random wave. Let's go to 69. And we'll switch around the team a little bit. Let's see. We're gonna put Achak in the Aura lead position. There we go. And I'm going to try and make this a team that's not too overpowered. So maybe put a Stag Knight in there. Apothecary. Oh, you know what? Reliquary Tender and Kyle. So, there we go. Okay, let's see how this goes. So as you notice, the block debuffs from Achak came in handy there. There we go. Freezing up 3 of the enemies. Very good. Nice control. So far, not doing too bad. Waves going down pretty comfortably. So, on to wave 2. Here we go. Looks like it's going pretty nicely as well. And on to wave 3. Freezing up 4 of the enemies again. Very, very nice. Very powerful. Which will in turn provide us with a lot of turn meter boost as well. So, pretty easy as you can see. And Achak really helps you a lot here. With the control and with his passive, he's just a really useful champion in Doom Tower, especially when you are a little bit earlier in the game. So as you might have noticed, I am a really big fan of this guy. And I'm still very happy that I pulled him early on in tandem with Stag Knight, who provided me with a very strong backbone to almost any team that I had at that time. But even if you are further along in the game and you are not using Achak as often as you were at the beginning, he will still be a very good champion in Faction Wars and also a god in a dungeon like Spider. He's just so incredibly good, especially when you combine this guy with an AoE HP burn champion. He's a fantastic addition to any team fighting the Spider. I hope you guys liked the video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and maybe subscribe to the channel for more Raid Shadow Legends videos. I wish you guys a very nice day and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Bye bye!